Hello and welcome to my home. I have lived in a van now for more than 11 years, and so I thought today I would share 11 lessons I've learned from my time as a nomad. If you're new here, my name is Amanda and I travel with my best friend Frank. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'm excited to share some of the things I've learned with you, hopefully enrich your life, whether it be on the road or not. So hit subscribe to come along, and if you're interested, you can also find me on Instagram and on Patreon. The first lesson I'm going to share, which is really relevant today, is that living slow is not living less. I cannot count how many times I've seen in the hashtag van life world people boasting and bragging about how far they've driven in a year. Things like, oh, my first 2 years of van life, I've driven 100,000 miles, or I saw 40 national parks in my first year. I'm like, so? Like, so what? How much did you actually take in? Slowing down does not mean missing out. I came into the park where I am with a really ambitious itinerary of a lot of really big hikes, and today I woke up super tired. I wasn't feeling it, so I decided to sleep in and snuggle with Frank, and then it started snowing on and off, and so I was like, oh, I'm pretty glad I'm not out on a hike. And so I was just taking a nice slow day, hanging out with Frank, tidying the van, and I was sitting in the front seat cleaning the dash, and I saw the Coati Mundi come into my campsite. So I got up my camera and I followed them around, like really quietly and slowly, trying not to be like obtrusive to them, and just followed them and watched them and filmed them and took photos. And it was so beautiful. They're a creature I've never seen before that I have long wanted to see. And so it was really fun to be able to just observe them and to be able to spend so much time with them. And that is an experience I probably wouldn't have had if I had forced myself to be really busy, if I hadn't allowed myself to slow down and to be able to take that in. And then after they went out of range for me to film them, I decided to, take the long way back to my campsite, went past one of the water taps that they leave on for all the creatures. And so I could film this woodpecker I had seen around there. So I was filming the woodpecker, and then another coati came, walked like 5 feet away from me, right past me, looking right at me, and went to get a drink of water. And so apparently they live in this area, but they're really likely to come into the campground when it's about to snow or when it's snowing, because it guarantees they can get water. And so, yeah, it felt really good to allow myself to take it slow today. And I've enjoyed a lot of great times over the years because I've gone slow. A lot of my more memorable times in the van aren't on these fast-paced adventures or covering a lot of ground on the road in a short amount of time. I find it's actually more memorable the times I'm hanging out in a hammock and reading and just taking it all in and listening to the birds. I found that if I live at a really fast pace, it's not as memorable. It's fun in the moment, but it doesn't stick in the long term. And it's not the memories that I end up really, really savoring. Often, a lot of the memories that shine the brightest years later are the ones that came from living life a little slower. Hi! When I left, you were here under the blankie facing the other way, and now I come back and you are on top of my pillow. I mean, it's fine, but still. Are you comfortable? Yeah. Oh, your nice nappies. It's nice to be back home after a walk, and you might be wondering where I am, that it is this cold. I'm wearing a puffy inside, and there's snowing, and I'm hanging out with coatis. I'm in the Chiricahua National Monument, and I am staying in the campground for 4 nights, which brings me to number 2 of the big lessons I've learned in the past 11 years living on the road, and that is that free camping or boondocking is not always worth it. For my first 6 or 7 years of van life, I never paid for camping. I absolutely refused to. I thought that no matter what, it was worth it to avoid paying for camping and that I would be saving money by doing so. But sometimes you end up driving a lot to avoid paying for camping. So, for example, staying here, I can walk most of the places I want to go. There is a shuttle in the park that will take me to the far end, and then I can walk back to here. And also there's some conveniences like being able to get rid of trash, having water, having flush toilets. Some campgrounds have showers, and like this one has Kawadis that just came into my sight, which is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And so if I were trying to explore the park here without paying for camping, I would be driving in and out every day, which not only would cost money in gas, but it would be more wear and tear on my vehicle, and it would take more of my time. And I consider my time to be the most valuable thing I have. And I would rather not spend my time driving in and out of the park to boondocking if I don't have to. Being here at the campground, I can get more set up, I can get more settled in, and it just allows me to have a nicer time. And so to me, those benefits are worth it. And so, you know, there's times when I absolutely hate staying in a campground. Like if it's a party campground, if it's like a ton of generators, or it's summer and there's children running around screaming all the time, I don't like that. But right now, throughout southern Arizona, the campgrounds have been really chill, really quiet, and really, really nice places to stay, and absolutely worth it to be living in the core of such a beautiful area and be able to just walk around and not have to worry about driving. So this is a lesson that I'm really glad I've learned. I'm really proud of myself for getting out of my own way and not letting my ego dominate the way I lived my life in a van, because I believed that I was better than everyone who paid for camping because I never paid for camping. But sometimes that meant, you know, driving a half hour down a rough road to like find a free place just to like the next morning drive back down that road to go do something. And so, yeah, it was really silly mindset of younger Amanda. And I really made that like a strong part of like my ego and my identity, was that I never paid for camping. And ultimately, I'm just so happy to sometimes be boondocking and free camping, and sometimes be able to stay in campgrounds that are in really nice areas or have really nice amenities. Sometimes it's just one night, sometimes it's a few nights like this, and just the ease it brings is absolutely worth it if you can afford it. A big part of why I've opened myself up to staying at campgrounds is because they're so accessible for Frank. They're a really nice place to take him for a stroll. There's always lots of things to check out for him, and sights and sniffs. So for Frank alone, to me, it is worth staying in campgrounds. All right, we are settled inside for the night, and we have the heater cranking because it is freezing outside. But I am very glad that we are camped somewhere where if I am in my van, there is no phone service, because something about people today is they're just taking out their negativity on me for no good reason in the comments, and it's really annoying. But despite that, the third major lesson I've learned from life on the road is that people are, for the most part, very, very kind. Over the years, I have received so much kindness from all different types of people, all different walks of life, all different belief systems and political beliefs, and it has been really nice to see. You know, van life can be pretty challenging when stuff goes wrong, like especially mechanical issues. It is a much bigger deal when you don't have a home to go back to. You can't just rent a car and go home. And so I've been really lucky to receive tons of kindness from mechanics and all different types of people helping me get unstuck when I'm stuck in the mud or have slid off the road or something like that. And then when I was through hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail, I really relied on the kindness of people, whether it was hitching a ride into town or back to the trail, or so often people opened up their homes for us and fed us and gave us a place to stay when we were in town. And I have received kindness from every different type of person out there. And it's been a really nice thing about living in a way that, you know, sometimes I do just need help from strangers, or that at least help from strangers makes my life a whole lot easier. So I've been really grateful for the opportunity to see how truly kind people are, regardless of whether or not I agree with them on all sorts of different topics. Something that I think has made it easier for me to see the kindness in people is that early on in my van life, somebody I really looked up to told me that there's something to learn from everyone. And so I really took that to heart and integrated it into the way that I interact with people. And instead of looking to judge them, I'm looking to listen to them and try to understand where they're coming from or why they think the way that they do, because then through that I'm able to learn from them instead of me making a decision about who they are and then judging them based on that, which just closes the door to learning. And I'm somebody who loves to learn. And so keeping a mindset that makes it easier for me to learn from people also allows me to be able to extend compassion to all types of humans, and also to see the kindness that is very, very common amongst humans. Hey, good morning. It was a cold one last night. Woke up to a skiff of snow, and Frank is cozy in bed, and I'm headed out for a hike. A little bit of a change of plans because the snow apparently is the reason the shuttle is not running today, which as a Canadian feels absolutely absurd. But apparently up at the top of the park, there's enough snow they need to plow. So I was pretty annoyed that the shuttle was canceled, especially for a reason that seems so silly to me. But ultimately, I don't want to be upset about that. I want to enjoy my day. So just pivot, go for a different walk. I mean, come on, this is beautiful. I was going to do this walk anyway, so just be flexible, switch things around, just like I did yesterday when I woke up way too tired to go on an adventure. And that brings me to the fourth lesson that I've learned in the past 11 years on the road, and that is that my mindset creates my reality. So before I was living in a van, I nearly lost my life to depression. And one of the main reasons why I ended up living in a van to begin with was because I wanted to take ownership of my mental health and to be in a good place. The reality is, van life is pretty tough. A lot can go wrong, and a lot of small things that normally wouldn't be such a big deal can be a lot more challenging living in a van. And if it weren't for me and the mindset I've chosen, van life might not have been a good thing for me, but I've chosen to look on the bright side of everything, to look for the lessons, to see it all as an adventure, and continue to remind myself that I've chosen this path because I believe that this path can be what's right for me. So things are going to go wrong. You know, you're going to slide off the road into a ditch, get stuck in a mud pit, and I could get stressed out and go, woe is me, and feel like a victim and complain and make it a big drama, like whether outwardly or just in my own mind. And that's just going to suck. So instead, it's like, oh, whoops, it's an adventure. This is what we're dealing with. What can I learn from this? How can I avoid this in the future? And just move on, just deal with it and not let my thoughts make me miserable. There are definitely crappy times that I have to deal with, and I'm not happy about it, but I don't make it into a bigger deal than it needs to be because my mindset shapes my reality. And at the end of the day, I'm the only one responsible for my happiness and my unhappiness. And so I'm just choosing to live a happy life as much as I can and to just build that mental fortitude and just take it as it comes. Well, this place totally rocks. I am so happy to be hiking in here today. So many different amazing views. And the snow is a really nice touch. I don't mind at all. It's pretty windy at times, but I got good amount of warmth coming from hiking uphill. Let's go this way. Look at it. It's so much fun hiking in amongst these rocks. It's a really great day. I have passed the halfway point of my hike, and when I got there, it was also the high point of my hike. So I sat down, had a little snack, had a big drink of water. It was raspberry flavored with today's sponsor, Drink Element. I am a huge fan of Drink Element because not only does it taste amazing, but it feels super effective with their science-backed blend of electrolytes. And I love that there's no other BS in it, like artificial colors or artificial flavors or sugar or filler or any of that. Just the electrolyte blend I need to replenish when I sweat, because whenever you sweat, you lose electrolytes. And electrolytes play a vital role in so many different functions within the body. So I definitely notice I feel a lot better when I stay properly hydrated with enough water and the electrolytes I need to keep my body functioning at its optimal. If you'd like to give Element a try, go to drinklmnt.com/TIDELINTOALPINE. And when you do that, it helps support the channel, which I really appreciate, because I love Element as a sponsor. But more importantly, you're going to get a sample pack included with purchase. The sample pack has 8 of their tasty flavors, so you can see which one you'd like to try next or share with a friend. And that sample pack is included with any purchase, whether you're buying 1 box of Element, the Insider Bundle, or the sparkling beverage. And even better yet, you can get that sample pack every time you make a purchase if you shop through the link. There's no limit to how many purchases you can get that sample pack with, which is a great offer. And I think I'm about to make another stop to drink more water because, you know, it's better in than out. No point carrying it. Better to consume it, be hydrated. And also at this sort of elevation, I find I do need to drink more water. I'm very sensitive to elevation. And it's hard enough for me just to hike up here, let alone talk. So with that said, thanks again to Element for sponsoring this video. And thank you to everyone who uses that link. I really appreciate it. It is shaping up to be such a lovely day. I'm on the final stretch of my hike. I got about 2 miles back to camp. I'm looking forward to taking it easy with Frank and doing a little bit to look after my body. You know, I was 27 when I set out on the road, and in a couple weeks, I will be 40. Which brings me to the 5th lesson I'm going to share in this video. And that is, aging is awesome. I used to think that, you know, after 30, it would all be downhill. And that by now, like, my life would be over. And I'm just so glad that I don't think that at all anymore. I feel like I'm just getting started. Spending the entirety of my 30s as a nomad has really shown me that life is what you make it at any age. It has been so much fun traveling around, going on so many adventures, seeing so many beautiful places, and living intentionally. And that means, like, also slowing down and just having really chill days from time to time. And yeah, there are things that were maybe a little easier when I was in my 20s, but I also did not know how to look after myself. And so I feel like I've learned a lot about getting older from Frank, and then also myself just getting older. And the thing is not only am I stoked on the adventure I've had so far and really looking forward to the adventures I will have, I also feel so lucky every day that I have survived this far. Because when it really comes down to it, what matters is that at the end of the day, like, I'm safe and that I wake up the next morning. And if I do those two things, I survive through the end of the day, and I wake up the next morning, then my life has been successful. I am succeeding at life, and everything else is just icing on the cake. Hi! Oh, I missed you. You look so cozy. Did you have such a nice sleep in? Hi. It was pretty nice to be back home with Frank and Truck, my van, is over 30 years old now and is the longest I've ever had a vehicle, and also the longest I've ever lived in the same home. And I've had countless comments over the years that I should get a new van, which brings me to number 6, is that newer isn't always better. If I took all of the money I've poured into this van and I spent it on buying a van, I would not have a vehicle in as good a shape as Truck is in. I wouldn't have all the memories I've made working on Truck, and I wouldn't have learned all the skills I've learned working on Truck. And if I were to go out and take out a loan on a brand new vehicle, those payments would be so stressful, and the debt would be like a black cloud over my life. I have been debt free since before I started my nomadic journey, and it is an amazing way to live. Truck isn't worth a ton if I wanted to sell it, but it's worth a lot more than the money to me because of the memories, the lessons I've learned, and he just has a lot of character, so I really like him for that. And it feels good to have saved this van from the landfill. If it weren't for me taking Truck and improving him, restoring him basically, then he would have been crushed by now. And so it's nice to keep old things running, and that goes beyond just my van. There's a lot of things in life, most things, if you can find something old and save it from being garbage, then that's the best way to go. As the saying goes, they don't make them like they used to, and in my opinion, that's true in most cases. All right, I'm pretty stoked about this. I think Frank is as well. It's been a while since we've got to hang a hammock, so definitely going to take advantage of it. This is a good place to tell you about number 7 of things I've learned on the road. And that is that you can have an amazing time with any rig. Before Truck, I lived in a minivan for over 2 years. I went 8 years without a heater, 9 years without a power system, and almost 11 years without a fridge. I can't stand up inside. I don't have a bathroom. I don't have a shower. I don't even have an inside kitchen. I just have a camp stove that I can use inside. I actually don't really have a built kitchen. I don't have any plumbing. My lights are just string lights. There was a couple years in the early times where I had a single candle lantern. And I've been having an amazing time all this time. Upgrading from a minivan to now a full-size van has not necessarily made my life easier. There are definitely ways it is easier, but as a whole, van life is still just challenging. And what's mattered most of all is that I'm out here living it. And if I had bought into the idea that you need like a new rig, you can stand up and have all the gadgets and all the things, I still would be in a house. Miserable. So yeah, I definitely think you can just get out in whatever you have, because really it's about the adventure. It's about having the time and space to connect to yourself and to spend it focusing on what matters, which this afternoon is going to be hanging out with Frank in this hammock. Oh, I love you. You're what matters most. And we've had such a great adventure on the road. And no fancier van would have made our time together better. So yeah, we're going to kick back. I brought a book with me. I might read it. I might just have a nap with Frank. Because it was a big hike. It was like 12 miles. So yeah, I'm just going to savor this Maybe we'll get lucky and some cool birds will come around, or maybe the coatis will descend into our campsite again. But yeah, it's nice to get a big hike early in the day and then just slow down. Hey, you slow down? I should be with you. You're what matters. Alright, well, it is sunny. It didn't snow again. So hopefully I can catch this shuttle and see most of the rest of the sites in the park in one hike. Get to skip most of the uphill walking and start from here. There's going to be some up on the way down, but it is going to be mostly downhill today. And it's a route that I don't have time to do in both directions. So the shuttle is making this possible. It was a nice ride. Got to hear about some spots in the park that the driver enjoys. So hopefully I will see some of them on today's walk. I've made it to my first stop of this hike, and I've just been sitting here enjoying the view, just spacing out and catching my breath after the uphill hike here, because I am at an elevation my body is not super fond of. So it was good to give myself some time to get a bit more oxygen into me. And that brings me to a lesson number 8 I want to share from my 11 years on the road. And that is that most things take time and space, whether to heal or to create. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know me as a pretty easygoing person, pretty content, take things in stride, and is generally pretty happy, which is, how I would describe myself. But when I set out on this journey, I set out pretty much from rock bottom, and I have clawed my way here over many years of diligent work. Not even always work, just allowing myself the time it takes and to create an environment where I have space to heal, where I'm not constantly distracted, not always busy going from one thing to the next, and pushing away things that are rather unpleasant to deal with. It's easy to make it appear like you're living a good life by just hiding everything else, but I don't want to live hiding from myself. And so I've taken a lot of time to intentionally be able to focus on moving through things so that I don't have to be pushing them aside. And it's not just healing that takes time and space, but also creativity. I think boredom is something that we're really lacking a lot in today's society. And I think a lot of good can come from boredom, a lot of beautiful creativity and inspiration and inventions come from slowing down and letting your mind just wander, not constantly filling it with things. And so, yeah, I don't have a huge plan for my life. I don't have an itinerary of things to do in years to come. But as I go, I take time to just be idle, and that allows me to see the pathways that feel right for me to pursue. I guess to that last point, I'll add that we kind of live at a time where so many people expect instant gratification. And in my experience, that is a really shallow pursuit, because I've found that most of the things in life that bring the most joy or feel the most rewarding take time and effort and patience and perseverance. For example, my YouTube channel. I didn't just start a YouTube channel and have a viral video and blow up and be monetized. I put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of work, earning absolutely nothing before I made my first penny. And it's been a slow and steady pursuit of growth. And as much as I would really love to just blow up and be able to share what I create with a lot more people, that's just not my path right now. And I accept that to continue to grow is just going to take more time. So this next one is one that when you allow yourself to fully believe is life-changing. And number 9 is that I can learn to do anything, and you can too. And while it might be a bit of a process, we live in a time where we have all of the information we need at our fingertips. So if we, 1, figure out how we learn best, figure out our learning style, and then 2, break down what we want to learn into little pieces until we can build back up and do the thing. So yeah, it's been amazing. I have gained so many skills throughout my time in a van because I believe that I'm capable of learning anything, and learning is a skill that you can hone as well. So it's really important to have the mindset that you can get better at learning and that you can learn to do anything. Because if you talk to yourself like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not capable of that, I can't figure it out, then that's going to be true. But if you talk to yourself and say, instead of saying, oh, I'm bad at this, say, I'm learning to get better at it, then you will get better at it instead of just stay bad at something. And so, yeah, it's really fun learning. I identify as a lifelong learner. I'm really looking forward to all the things I will continue to learn in life, and having a positive outlook on learning and finding it fun to learn new things has made my life on the road a lot easier because stuff always comes up and I know that I can just slow down and figure out how to deal with it. It is so nice to be back in the trees for a little bit. The sun is really intense at that elevation, and now the rest of the hike is downhill, which I'm also stoked on because I would like to breathe easily, and given that it's all downhill means the next stop is Frankietown. Hi. Hi. Are you dusting? I got home from my hike. I brought Frank out in the sun. Then I did a quick upper body workout and took Frank for a walk in his chariot around the campground. We saw some turkeys. And then I just kind of hung out in the hammock for a little bit, enjoying the sun and just looking at the trees. Then I had dinner, and now it's like 6:15 and I'm exhausted. I was gonna edit tonight, but yeah, it's taking everything I have just to film this so I can tell you about lesson number 10 that I have learned on the road. A very, very valuable lesson that in ways was learned the hard way. And that is that not all nomads are good people. You cannot judge a person's character by their hobbies or activities or the things they have in common. There are all types of people living on the road, living as nomads, van life, RV life, schoolie life, what have you. There are all types of people. And yeah, a lot of them are good people, just like a lot of house dwellers are good people. And there's also really crappy people living on the road. And sometimes those crappy people are on the road because everywhere they go, they burn bridges, so they have to keep a move on. And I'm somebody who likes to try to see the good in people, but it will not do you any good to assume that all nomads are good people. You got to keep your guard up. There are definitely some real crap humans out there on the road. Toxic people, abusive people, liars, manipulators, thieves, you name it, they're out there. And yeah, hopefully you don't encounter them. But they exist. So judge a person by the person they are, not by their hobbies. And no amount of things in common guarantees somebody is going to be a good human. Good morning, Frank. Hello. Yeah, you take your time. Hi. Well, good morning. I'm about to pack up and roll out of here into New Mexico, which means it is time for number 11 of things I've learned on the road in the past 11 years. And that is that there is no one right way to be a nomad. It is going to be different for everyone. And if it's something you're interested in doing, don't feel like you need to have what you see other people having or doing to be able to do this. You get to define for yourself the lifestyle you want to live and what you need to live it. And if you're going to need all the bells and whistles and gadgets, then it might be more expensive and it might take you longer to get into it. But if you're willing to go without, the adventure starts sooner. If you want to spend your time hiking and adventuring like I do, that's fine. Or if you want to hang around and listen to the birds and knit or read a book, then that's great too. You don't have to cover lots of ground, or you can cover lots of ground. You park in the same place for 2 weeks at a time, enjoy that public land is free, or you can cruise a little faster, stay in campgrounds. It really is a choose your own adventure sort of path, and what's most important is that you're happy with the way you're living, so don't compare yourself to others and just enjoy the journey. With that said, I've enjoyed sharing these lessons with you. They're just a few of the lessons I've learned along the way. It has been a wonderful, wonderful 11 years on the road now. I am enjoying the start of my 12th year, and when I come to think about it, I have hundreds of tips, hundreds of little tips on all different topics to make this life a little easier, a little safer. So if that's something you're interested in hearing more from me about, let me know in the comments down below. But thank you so much for watching all the way through. A huge thank you to patrons and to channel members. And I got a cute clip of Frank to send you off on your way. Hope to see you in New Mexico. I thought I was turning off my camera. I'm too tired for this. Why is it so dark? Why is it so dark?